I am, man.
It's been a while since we've been super live. All right, here we go.
Welcome to episode 200 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Today is July the 26th, 2015. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and consisting of approximately 200 pixels is my brother, James Furlo.
Yeah, dude, we made it. Big 200.
Woo! Everybody celebrate! Fire off the fireworks! Bang, bang, bang. We don't have any fireworks, do we?
No, I
Um,
I spent them all last night.
yeah, so in anticipation.
Yeah,
Um, so I gotta ask James.
yeah.
This seems just totally on topic for what we do here at the show. It's
Uh
what
huh.
we're about.
Uh
Did
huh.
you see Pixels this weekend?
No, I saw Ant-Man instead.
Yes, I saw Iron Man too. Um,
I had to support the number one box office. Barely.
exactly. Barely. Well, yeah, but it's been out for like 3 weeks and it beat Pixels. I
Not really
think
two
under
weeks.
2 weeks, whatever. It'll beat it in its third week
It's not a
too.
surprise, dude. Pixels didn't look that amazing.
It looked horrible. I actually spent I had a really good time Saturday morning. Um, one of my best friends growing up, and I won't point out who specifically because that could be considered mean.
So
He
Brian,
yes, it was Brian. He wanted to know if I wanted to go see Pixels with him Friday night. And I was like, no,
not really.
what? It sounds awful. And I was like, even if I was available, which I'm not, I wouldn't waste my time on that movie. And he was like, what? And I was like, want to go see Ant-Man instead? And he's like, no, Ant-Man looks terrible. Oh,
What?
what? What? Yeah, he's like, and basically the conclusion of our disagreement was that he felt the same way about Ant-Man that I felt about Pixels. And I was
Yeah,
like,
but there's a
dude,
key difference here. One of you is right, and the other is
yeah,
wrong.
right. That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, and sometimes I can be a pushy in my opinions, and so I was, in my, I'm trying really hard. I've mentioned this before. I'm trying really hard this year to be more just generally
Yeah.
optimistic and just easygoing when it comes to movies. And I Pixels is just too much for me, man. I couldn't be optimistic about it. And here he was, like, just straight up, like, excited about it. I was like, "Have you seen the trailer?" So anyway, Saturday morning I spent probably an hour watching video reviews and reading reviews of Pixels, and it seemed like everybody was in a competition who could come up with the most creative insult. And
Nice.
it was pretty entertaining actually. Um,
Well,
yeah.
that means you gave it a fair shake.
Hmm.
In the sense of you didn't go see it, but you're like, let me see if you're the one who's jaded or if it's really bad.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's really
fair.
bad. They
It
did say,
turns out it's really bad.
yeah, I guess what everybody says is that the video game stuff, like the actual when the action is happening, the video games those special effects look pretty good. Um, which is fair enough. One of the biggest criticisms they've said about this comedy though is that it's often really easy to forget that it's a comedy. Um, and really,
What does that mean? Because it's just not funny.
just not funny. It's just dumb.
That's funny.
It's got four comedians as the leads, and it doesn't actually make you laugh at all. It was astounding. It was pretty entertaining watching all the reviews. Um, it's just yeah, oh, so bad. I did take the time because I thought this was interesting to look up Adam Sandler's stats on Box Office Mojo. Did you
Yeah.
know that he has over the years earned his adjusted for price of inflation, his movies have earned over $3 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, no, yeah, 3 billion. That's right. Over $200 million. It's crazy. Lifetime gross not adjusted is still over 2.5 billion. Waterboy was his best, adjusted for inflation. It's pretty impressive. He's made nearly $4 billion worldwide on his movies. I mean, with stats like that, you can understand why they allow him to make really awful movies like Pixels. But with a production budget of $88 million and on its opening weekend only coming in at 24 domestic, I'm not sure how much longer they're gonna let him keep making these awful movies.
Yeah. Wow.
I think the thing that frustrated people most, that it seemed to me, is that it's actually a pretty clever premise, because it's basically like they go like the premise is viable, and in that, like, we sent all this stuff out into the world in satellites trying to share our culture, and we put video games on them, and alien life misinterpreted that and and thought it as a war declaration and came to fight us. They're like, if you could take that premise and make it Ghostbuster-ish, it could have been really great. But that's not the direction they took it. They took it to the direction of bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you think of it? Oh, as I keep reviewing a movie I've not even seen. What did you think of Ant-Man? Ant-Man.
Dude, hilarious.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love how Marvel does a good job of like giving each movie their own identity and feel.
Yeah.
It's not like, yeah, just like you would expect with the comics, like, which makes sense. You got different directors, different actors, whatever. I get that, but it's just kind of like it feels different than any other Marvel movie. Not in like a good bad way. It just feels different. I mean, they clearly like did not take themselves seriously.
Oh yeah.
And
It's
that's
just
part of the fun of it. I do
yeah.
love and I'm not giving away any spoilers here, when the dude is telling the story of how he learned
Oh
about.
my gosh, that's the best movie. That's the best part of the movie. Oh, you know how I don't like red wine, but they had this rosé that saved the day. That was great. That whole, yeah, yeah,
Pretty
that
funny.
was solid. I would say it is by far the funniest Marvel superhero movie. I would go so far as to say that was a comedy with action, as opposed to an action movie with comedy, which is what most of the Marvels
Yes,
are.
yes.
And I really liked the juxtaposition of the fact that it was really this melodrama about a bunch of different characters and their lives, and then there was this side character, like, comic relief, that was Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Like, what is this movie? I don't
Yeah.
even understand what they're doing from like a classical start, but it worked really well. It had a weird, goofy feel. It was fun. It's I can understand why it's not the highest rated Marvel movie, but I think of your, like, side casual Marvel stories, it was probably one of my favorites. It was well done. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I liked it. So I'm happy I saw it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, James, we're not here
We're
to talk
not.
about Marvel movies and Pixel movies. This week, like every week for the last 200 weeks, we will be talking about technology and what we call the corporate opera. And by that, we mean the soap opera of corporations' dealings back and forth, the people working for them, their marketing campaigns, and the technology they are developing. But before we get into the heart of the show, James has got a short disclosure. And I want to throw in, I don't know why I just psyched myself out there, but that's the first time I've had to read that in, like, the last 150 weeks. Like, I was, like, worried I was going to mess it up.
You did not. You did fine.
Thank
Let's see
you.
here. I work for HP, but I do not
Hewlett
represent
Packard.
HP or any of HP's opinions. I'm also massively biased towards Twitter and Etsy, which
Yeah.
is up for like $5 on Etsy. Sweet.
Noise.
I'm almost to my. No, I'm not even close to my breaking point.
I'm gonna your breaking point.
Break-even point.
Oh, break. I was gonna say okay, makes sense. So I've got a list of biases. I'm biased towards Facebook, Microsoft, Yahoo, Box, eBay, Twitter, Applied Materials, Skull Candy, oh, Intel. I realize that their letter call thing is INTC. For whatever reason, every time I say int, it's like coming up with Intel corporations really hard. I'm also invested in PayPal and GoPro. You will notice not on that list is one Fitbit. I switched it up, man. I sold Fitbit. I bought GoPro.
Really?
And
You were
yeah,
influenced by last week's episode.
yeah. I had to do it, man. I had to. And I'm glad I did. The one thing that happened this week, though, and we'll talk about it a little more in the show, maybe, or did I not? I didn't highlight it, so I'll talk about it now. eBay and PayPal finally initially split, which is why I have one share of PayPal, because I had one share of eBay. And there was like this huge dip, like moments before the IPO, and then an enormous skyrocket, and I should have sold right then, because it's back down. But it was fun for a minute to see. I'd made like $50. I was like, what? This is awesome. This is the most I've ever. Oh, it's gone. But yeah, so if you want to follow us throughout the week, we're all up on the social media. NextWiggin4, NEXTWIGGIN4 is my Insta, or my Twitter's at Matthew D. Furlo.
What am I? I'm James Furlo at twitter.com, on Instagram. And you really want to be following us, because we're going to be tweeting a ton this week and next week probably to celebrate our 200th episode.
Yeah, we said it was coming. We promised you.
So here's the deal.
Go for it.
Unless you want to describe it, I can explain.
No.
All right. So here's the deal. We really buried this one in the lead.
Yeah, we really did.
The podcast. All right. So for our 200th episode, we wanted to celebrate. And so that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So we're giving away not one, but two $100 gift cards. Okay. So you get that $100 times two. 200th episode celebration is going to be a new effect. So what's going to happen is we're going to do this for 2 weeks, and the winners will be able to choose a $100 gift card from any of the following companies: Amazon, Apple, Best Buy, Microsoft, Google, AMC, and Regal, which the movie theaters make sense if you have listened. What?
I wish we weren't a half hour into the show already, because I wish we could start over. So if we'd start over, I would have opened with that. You're so right. That's such a bad idea. I was so excited about movies.
That's okay. That's all right. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to furlobros.com/200, and you can enter to win your free gift card. Or if you follow us, like we talked about, like at James Furlo on Twitter, or at Matthew, what are you, D Furlo at Twitter, we'll probably be posting links there as well for you to click and to sign up. So you got 2 weeks, but don't wait, because if you once you sign up, you will be given a lucky URL where you can share that with friends. And for everybody you get to enter, you get 3 entries more. So it really increases your chance of winning. So you'll see all the details.
This is a lot of money. I mean, that ain't nothing.
That's right. It's true.
We're not even asking you to listen to the show. I mean, we're going to ask you, listen to the show, please. We have no way to verify it, so you don't even have to listen, really. Just share it with other people. And, you're welcome. That's how we roll. This is it's like a pyramid scheme we got going on. Multi-level marketing, as it were. But, yeah, for your clicks, your shares, just go out, have a good time. Yeah. And let people know about this.
Yes,
Um,
please.
so this is a very good show. I'm really excited. Can we jump into it, man? There's
Yeah,
cool
let's do
stuff
it.
going on this
Let's
week.
do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna start out right now. PlayStation 200 divided by 50, sometimes referred to as the PlayStation 4, has won this generation of the console wars.
Really?
Um, yeah, I actually saw this article first on Mac Daily News, which is hilarious. Just Mac Daily News taking a club to Microsoft. But it's being brought to you by Seeking Alpha. And yeah, so basically what they're saying is if you look at the numbers over the last couple of years, and as as our long-term listeners know, I'm a proud PlayStation 4 owner because I thought that that's the direction it was going, that the momentum was in the way of Sony, and I wanted to be on the winning side. I wanted to be where all my friends were going to be, and that just seemed like the right choice. And over the last couple of years, the numbers have gone up and down, and the Xbox One is doing a lot better than it was. They're way up, but the biggest problem is that they are very, very dependent on one-time sales. So basically, what happens is uh, Xbox One saw a 51% increase in sales compared to June 2014, and Xbox Live accounts increased to 22% over the same time frame. This is likely due to the E3 week sales that did sell more consoles over those 7 days compared to the PS4, but also became a major, but also because of major upcoming titles. But the big thing there is that even with the extra titles, they see their biggest jump in sales, and they only really beat the PlayStation 4 when the system goes on sale. Outside of those time frames, PlayStation 4 wins. And the real problem is that it's an additive thing, right? You're taking the integral of sales over time. So it's not just these one-time spurts that matter, but it's the entire user base. Because what a AAA developer is going to say is, what platform do we want to pour most of our time resource into? Do we want to pour it into PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One? Well, the user base, the install base on PlayStation 4 is bigger, so the chances of you selling more copies if you make it for PlayStation 4 is better. So AAA developers build for the biggest system, and that therefore more exclusive go to the PlayStation 4. The better graphics go to the PlayStation 4 because more time was spent on the engine and all of those little sorts of nuances. And then now it's got a momentum because there is an incentive to buy a PlayStation 4 because that's where the best platform or the best system is. And at this point, the question is there anything that Microsoft can do? Seeking Alpha's conclusion was, yeah, build a different console. Don't mess up the next generation. There's also Oculus Rift coming out, which is teamed up with Xbox One. That's got a lot of momentum, but I got a feeling that the Morpheus is going to be adequate competition to prevent any real boost there. HoloLens might do something because it's unique enough, but it really is geared towards high-powered. It looks like it's pretty geared towards high-powered PCs, not necessarily the Xbox. Which is another problem that the Oculus Rift has as well. So it's interesting. The one real piece of this that can throw everything for a tizzy is China just this weekend approved the sale of video game consoles in mainland China, which over about a year ago, they allowed video game consoles in general to be sold in China, but they had to be registered with they had to be Chinese companies. What was the definition? They had to be registered in the Shanghai Free Trade Zone, which meant that Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft couldn't. So now all of a sudden it does open up a 1.5 billion person market for video game console sales, and if Microsoft really wants to win, there's potential for them to make some real movements there. The only problem is that since consoles haven't been allowed in the market for so long, there's a really thriving PC gaming market, and that's what they're going to be competing with in mainland China. And so, once again, they're gonna have to win on price alone, and you know, it's not fun for a company trying to make as much profit as possible. But thought it was interesting. It's over.
So when I get my television, I got to go with PlayStation 4, 200 over 50.
It's exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's the.
Well, I also want to talk about winners. Wait.
Yes.
In my next article.
Okay.
Yes. But first, I want to talk about my other love, which is real estate. Specifically Zillow. For the record, I love the website Zillow. I think what they do is pretty awesome. It's
great. Their app won't actually run on my phone right now, which is really upsetting me. It just crashes when you open it.
I think I know the answer to solving that.
While you were setting everything up, I was actually on Apple's website putting together configurations of various iPhone 6 Pluses, saying how much is this going to cost? Just sort of dreaming. I'm pretty set on getting the 6S still, but
yeah, especially since it sounds like they're going to bump all the specs on storage, which you care immensely about.
Yes. Yeah. So
I convinced our mom to wait because she was all hot to trot to get a new phone and was like, I'm doing it this week. And then that news article came out and I was like, you might want to wait. And that was what sold her.
Brian Nelson.
Good choice, Mom.
I got him to wait as well, but this is a business expense, James. I'm a developer now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Whoa.
According to the IRS, that might be a little different.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Put it that way. All right. So anyways, Zillow. They bought Trulia earlier this year, maybe late last year. It's borderline. And I love them because they're aggregating a whole bunch of real estate data and making it super easy for people to, look up what's going on. And they clearly are trying to make a play to replace your real estate agent. It's not quite as nefarious as that, or that's not the word. Adversarial. That's the word I'm looking for.
Also, it's not the word just because it's nefarious, not nefarious.
Okay.
Sorry.
So part of replacing agents is getting on board on the paperwork. And I don't know, No, you've never bought anything.
Whoa.
So man, we're just semi-insultive this evening.
I was going to say, we're supposed to attack the companies, not each other, James.
Yeah, wow. Anyways, so the first time that we bought a place, we signed everything by hand, printed off stacks of paper and signed everything by hand, which was fine because it was our first time doing it. And so we actually wanted to read everything and understand what we were signing. But then our agent switched over to DocuSign. And one of the perks of DocuSign is literally you can upload a PDF and then say, here are the parts to sign. And once you confirm that you are who you say you are, you literally just taps of a button and just sign stuff through, and you can just go all the way through it. It's crazy convenient. The story that I like to say is that when we were driving down to Mexico on I-5, we put in an offer on a house, did the negotiations over the phone, and signed a contract before entering into Mexico, and had already started the mortgage paperwork before crossing the border, and we were able to do that because of DocuSign and these digital signing documents. We're literally doing it on our phone, going 65 miles an hour down the freeway. It's you're like, this is the future. This is cool. So
yeah.
Zillow wants it on this space. And so they couldn't buy DocuSign, so they went for the next best, which is DotLoop. It's a 6-year-old company based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And they are a DocuSign competitor, essentially. It's kind of interesting. their rates are not as good. I actually looked it up. So their starting is $29 per month, which if you're in the industry, fantastic. But DocuSign has like a partnership with the realtor organization. So they have a special realtor promo price for only $20 a month, and DocuSign also has a $10 a month one.
Yeah.
So my guess is what you're going to see here. It's just my guess is that because Zillow, they're not idiots. They're going to say, sign up for some service or whatever, become a preferred agent included in it, or, something to that effect. And they're going to give DocuSign a run for its money, which I think is good because digital documents are totally the way to go.
Right.
I rarely hand sign anything. I shouldn't be saying this over the podcast, but whatever. For the most part, if someone asks,
you're just trying to get more traffic than we've ever gotten before.
If someone asks for a signature, I literally will I'll take the PDF, I'll export the PDF as a picture, open it up in Pixelmator, insert my digital signature on top, export it out as a PDF, and remerge it together.
Nice.
Which is somehow easier than printing, signing, and scanning.
Yeah.
But hey, what can I say?
I got a question. I'm having a hard time actually remembering this. Okay, maybe this is the one I'm looking for. But didn't we interview DocuSign, the CEO?
No. It was another company.
It does the same thing.
Similar. They were more. I wish I could remember their name. It was a while ago.
I know. I'm like sitting here googling it, trying to sit there like, what? Who did
I can find it. I think. No, what they did was, they did the signature thing, but their whole thing was, we will take a form that you have to fill out. Think like an application to rent, just to pick another one, and then what they will do is Bizotto is the name of it. And then we'll turn it into an online form, essentially.
Right.
So taking the paperwork out of work was their thing. Yeah. Bizotto. So slightly different. Yeah.
Nice. Gotcha.
Yeah, anyways, pretty cool, man. As someone who's interested in this industry, I've wanted to sign up for one of those things for a while. I'm not quite big enough to justify it. I'm like, that's still pretty darn easy to just meet him in person and print it off. Man, I would love to go paperless because they got iPad apps, which I'm like, an excuse to buy an iPad.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, like I said, business expense. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. Well, can I go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, because it's one of those things where as time goes on, being able to sign things digitally and not having to show up in person is going to become more important, especially as we experience the next industrial revolution.
Ooh.
I know. It sounds big. So imagine yourself 5 years from now, sitting around a picnic table with a group of friends. One of them just landed a coveted manufacturing gig right after getting her master's degree and is now pulling in $200K a year. Another is complaining that the new $8,000 Ford Fusion he custom designed online wasn't delivered within the promised 3-day delivery or 3-day window. He was stuck taking the driverless bus around town. Brave New World? Not really. I'm reading from TechCrunch. And Adrian Fortino talking about what the next industrial revolution looks like, and he's making an argument that America should really try to make sure it happens here, which is a really interesting one and kind of beyond it's an interesting idea. But one of the things that he was talking about in what we're going to see, basically his argument is that you're going to see a lot more machine-to-machine communication, a lot higher levels of automation in factories, and the ability for people to do two things: have a lot of customization and have people not actually have to be there or fewer people, and so actually working the factory, so you can make more money as a manufacturing worker because you're more of
Nice.
a, yeah, yeah. I still I love these kind of conversations, um these sorts of articles, because there's this real that, oh man, where is that? There's a cloud and data-driven applications will power automated machine-to-machine workforces. Skilled human operators will coordinate our production and workflow, optimizing machine and materials, utilization as business needs change. Real-time quality assessment on the production line will eliminate end-of-line rejects and all the wasted material that goes with them. Customization will become cheaper and faster than ever before due to extreme flexibility built into product and process design. Specialized additive manufacturing technologies such as 3D printing materials have the potential to drive this hyper flexibility in heavy manufacturing environments. And which is something that I feel like I can't disagree with their conclusion on this. That you're going to get this world, we're moving towards this world, especially in manufacturing, where you can do more customization with fewer people in smaller amounts of time. And one of the perks of working with the company that I work with is that we've really embraced that mentality, and we compete with companies that have literally 10 times the workforce doing the same design work that we're doing. And one of the big things that we do is that we basically outsource huge chunks of what we do to other companies, sending all this information to other stuff, to whether it's not wafer fab manufacturers, but circuit design, circuit PCB companies, wiring companies, frame builders. We send stuff all over the world. We order really highly intelligent machines. We bring them all together, and then we basically stitch them together. And it allows us to do two things. It allows us to build really highly customized tools. Every single one of them is different. For those of you who don't know, I work at a semiconductor manufacturing company. We build tools that build computer chips. And I guess, what am I trying to say? To me, we look at it as there's going to become a time where we don't even necessarily have to show up to work. My boss has talked about sort of that, what does it look like in 20 years? He probably will be retired by that point, but just it's fun to think about it. And he sits there and he goes, a company like ours will be a company of a couple of individuals who work from home, sit at a computer, and point and click at stuff, order, and it all shows up somewhere else, and it all gets built for us, and then we sell it.
Wow.
We're charging for our brain trust. This is what we're good at. We are able to make sure that everything comes together, and there are other people that build it and assemble the various different components, and what we have to deal with is interportability. And what's really interesting to me about this article is they talk about the difficulty of your machine-to-machine communication and sort of upgrading older systems, and how do you go about all that, which is we work in the semiconductor industry. We're constantly dealing with that, because these are people that are sitting there going, look, we build computers. Can we use computers to build computers? It's supposed to work that way, right? And so it is an interesting struggle, but it's one it's a solvable one, and oftentimes a solved one, just not an implemented one. And so I guess my perspective on all this is, this is inevitable. This is going that way. And the thing that I always come back to in concern is that that I don't think people really understand. One of the complications of this is that if you don't need 20 people to build 20, if you're going to build 10 furnaces and it used to take 20 people, and then all of a sudden you figure out how to do it with 5, you don't keep those other 15 people around, and you don't necessarily make more furnaces. Maybe you drop the price of the furnace, and it's a smaller pie, but now there's dramatically fewer people, so each person makes more money, but there are still 20 or 15 people that used to have jobs that don't. And I don't know. It's an interesting to me. I get excited about it because I think I can be one of those skilled operators that's making $200,000 a year or whatever. And actually, if we're talking 20 years from now, that's probably not going to be that great of a price tag. But ideally, a well-paying job at building the equipment and being one of the source manufacturers. And the other argument here is that you can do this. It's funny. I remember when we were kids, I used to say, and I was first getting interested in automated manufacturing and robotics and that sort of stuff. And I used to make the argument that the only thing cheaper than cheap labor is free labor, and that is eventually what you would need to beat China and other, Taiwan and Africa, and not the continent, since it's a bunch of different countries, but the countries in Africa that that compete for super low wages. The only way to really beat that is through automation. And right now, robotics is more expensive than that. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But the idea that those prices aren't going to keep coming down, and that we won't be able to cost out the lifetime of the machines to compete with incredibly low labor, I'm having a hard time. Low wages, I just seems laughable to me. And I think what we end up with is a place where, that we'll be able to replace people with robots. And the advantage to the customer is the $8,000 Ford. But
right. I think I'm okay with that because I'm not in any risk of being displaced.
Yes. Well, and that's okay. So I put two articles together because were kind of big and heady, and I thought they were interesting and important. And so the other one that I have is what are computers anymore? And this is an article brought to us by The Atlantic, where they ask the question, what is a computer anymore? It used to be a person, now it's a machine. What's next? And so the argument being that if you were to go back to a computer was no longer just a human. People used to be computers. This is for hundreds of years. Computing was work for humans and very often women. Then in the mid-20th century, machines began to take on the bulk of computing work, and the definition of computer changed. So it used to be that when data entry needed to be done, or calculations, or whatever, and large amounts of data needed to be processed, it was done by people and slowly. Then we built machines that could do those computations very quickly, and we called them calculators or computers. And the International Business Machine was literally a mechanical computer that could do those types of calculations for people. And then with the advent of silicon transistors and the integrated circuit, those two things allowed us to do electrical computers, and Moore's law led to shrinkage, and eventually you got to the point where that evolution led us to where we are today. And computers are pretty cool, but they are in their essence sequential processors, and they are doing a lot of math and redirects. So they have a very small collection of different commands that they can do. They can do a tremendous amount of math very quickly, and they sequence things one after another. And as evidenced by Google's Photos app and their ability to do pattern finding, there is a new paradigm coming about in neural networks and designing networks of computers to act more like neurons and less like sequential processors. And the deal here, and the reason why this is important, is because it allows you to do stuff that you've never been able to do before with computers. From where automation in manufacturing replaces physical labor, or at least acts as a multiplier to physical labor, that's where neural networks can do a similar thing to more traditional just labor, and where you're looking for pattern finding and trying to take sensors that can measure a tremendous amount of data very quickly and ease out useful information out of that, which is effectively what our brain does. That's what we're in a very, very simple, from a very, very simple perspective. That's what our brain does. And there's a lot about the brain that we don't understand, and a lot of times neural networks get a knock because they're like, well, you couldn't simulate a human brain, so, you know, we don't even really know how human brains work. So, like, what are you going to do? Make an actual person in the computer? And I come back, no, the same problem is going to happen with neural networks that we have with automation, where you don't need to completely replace people. You never will, or you likely won't. You just need to reduce the workforce. And so we sit there and go, you know, what did computers do for your industry, right? Because you're a data miner. That used to be armies of people would do tons of math and they couldn't come to nearly the sort of conclusions that you come to. Now you're able to look at bigger data sets and come to better conclusions with fewer people. And we keep building these machines that do that. And sort of attacking both sides of the labor problem. One, the actual physical labor, the other, the mental labor, the idea coming up and solving and stuff like that. And I don't know. I read these articles and I get really excited because I think I can be part of that.
Yeah.
And I think people should be part of it. I've become a big advocate for people learning, hey, you should learn how to program. You should at least be knowledgeable of it. You should understand the basics of it. Because there's this sort of, if you just think it's magic, then, you know, you look at the Harry Potter world and you always wonder, like, how is it the wizards don't just dominate everything? That's because, well, they're good and they're nice and, you know, But seriously, if wizards existed, they could take over the world. If they had this magic ability that everybody else didn't understand, what would stop them? Nothing. And that's sort of the direction, if you decided to not learn how to, if you can and decide not to learn programming, in the next 50 years, the people who did take that leap, who did decide to become the wizards, as Arthur C. Clarke used to say, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. You know, I do want it to happen here because it makes, you know, I want to be part of it. It's sort of,
yeah.
You know, it's just, there's this selfishness that comes along with all this, and it's exciting, it's cool, but it's also kind of terrifying and Brave New World-ish. I don't know.
I'm listening to a podcast right now.
Furlo Bros Tech Podcast, where you can win $200. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's that one. And it's a Tim Ferriss podcast, and he is interviewing Peter Diamandis. He wrote a book called Bold, and he is big on making like big dreams, and like one of the questions he had and he was just doing a Q&A session, and someone asked him, like, what are some unrealistic goals that company or that nations should strive for?
That's interesting.
Yeah, he was like, oh, fascinating question. He's like, well, I actually think there's some opportunity out there for some small company or small countries to make a huge difference. He's like, for example, he was like, what if the Netherlands went strictly digital currency? No more paper.
Whoa.
He was like, your robbery and theft would go significantly down.
Whoa.
Your costs of producing and managing money would go significantly down. The security would be so much better. He's like, and you'd be like awesome.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and or he was like, or fully digital voting, like everyone gets a vote for once. Crazy idea. You know, true democracy.
True democracy would be a disaster, but
Fair enough.
Ask the Romans. No, I'm just.
he then, and then he also went on to talk about healthcare some and what that would look like and some other things. But one of the other questions he got was about education, and they're how would you improve our education system? And he was like, look, the education system right now comprises of two parts. There's the socialization aspect of it and the actual learning something part of it. He's like, the socialization was like, it's okay. The learning part, it's not good. And he's like, here's how I would solve it. He was like, this is how it is currently on track to being solved. He's like, AI. And he's like, you will have an individualized teacher that it will take from the best teachers in the world, their content, and then it will mold and change it to meet you right where you're at. It will literally be the best education for that person and nobody else. He's like, it will meet you not only like your language and your age and it'll be able to analyze your reading capability and meet you right where you're at and improve you. It'll be able to tell if you don't understand a concept and go, oh, okay, take a step back here and then rework it back up so you understand a concept. He's like, it will be able to tell if you're just having trouble focusing and if it needs to go really slow or if you're just on fire today and let's power through this. And so it was, and like I was listening to it with Jesse and we got done. I was like, man, that does sound kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But also like way out there, and that's part of what his job is now, is to set those crazy visions and then empower and fund other people.
You know what though? It's funny because I still come back. I don't think that's way out there because so Google Translate is one that I think I've talked about this, but the thought experiment of what if Google Translate didn't just translate Spanish to English, but could translate level 12 English to level 5 English, in grade level, right? And so, because we rank the complexity of language based on based on general grading levels, that's commonly known. What if we could say take a book that's really you need to be in 12th grade level English and translate it down, break down the words and rewrite it on the fly to meet that of an 8th grader. And so an 8th grader could read something, maybe they wouldn't understand the whole concept, but from a language perspective they would be able to read it. And most importantly, what you could do is you could put it at language level 9.5. And as people read, you can introduce new languages, new words, and help them grow. And I sit there and I go, that's the sort of program that, from a translation perspective, yeah, that's difficult, and that's where that machine learning really comes from, because that's where the pattern finding works at its most brilliant, is being able to comprehend what is the book, what is that paragraph trying to say, and once it understands what it's saying, then it can take that meaning and apply it to different languages, right? It can rewrite it at the proper level. And I sit there and I go, maybe Google's not going to build a language tool in the next 5 years, but if they make a lot of progress with these neural networks and they've got the infrastructure to do Google Translate on the fly, it's not hard to imagine that in 10 years they would have a product like that. And that's exactly what he's talking about. You couple that with some science education, some math education, some history education, and that same concept, and all of a sudden you got this really powerful education framework for the basics, and all of a sudden all you need to do is really, okay, let's talk about the bigger ideas, the quote-unquote graduate level concepts. And I don't know, I completely agree with him, and I think that's going to happen, and it's not going to be a single product, it's going to be something a lot bigger than that. What will be interesting to see is, once again, this goes back to the problem of you'll need fewer teachers. And what sort of resistance will you get from teacher unions? They're saying, dicker gerbs, and from, I don't know. I sit there and I think that, yeah, that's obviously where we're going, and dealing with the idea of building these these artificial intelligences that aren't sentient, that aren't all-knowing, but are just sort of there helping you like a sidekick, helping slowly educate you, helping inform you when you don't have enough information. Basically being the omnipresent Google. I need information about this. Here's the information you need, to contextually aware. Everything we're talking about. And because that's the other thing, is that it's one thing, it's cool that the idea that we could help you learn, but how much do you need to learn if the computer's right there constantly filling in your information? How much historical information do you need? Like, how many dates do you need to memorize if you can just look it up on Google all the time? And if it's contextually aware of what you need, the smarter the machine becomes, then at some point you don't even have to remember the dates because they'll just be there when you need them. And I don't think that's the sort of thing that's 200 years in the future. I think that's, our lifetimes will have tools like that.
Man, I hope you're right. That'd be awesome.
It would be great. And then at that point, what is a history teacher except somebody who's trying to, right now a history teacher is trying to give you all the information so that you can apply it to future problems. But really a history teacher at that point just becomes somebody who teaches you how to use the tool, that gets you comfortable with the calculator, because it'd be crazy to learn that stuff on your own and try to have it all in your head, because it would just pale in comparison. Somebody who's good with the calculator, like you're good with the computer, and there might be somebody who's better at the math or better at doing the calculations than you are, but you're better with the tool, which means you can process even bigger data sets even faster. And so what's the advantage of being good at a calculator at that point? It goes back to my argument. I think we'll make a transition at some point where we will not focus so much on math, but really on computer technology and how we'll teach math through computers. And we'll start with, this is how programming works, and this is how your calculator is working. And then eventually, if you want to get to the higher level maths, well, then you'll take advanced classes in high school and college, where you'll go over fractions and exponents and the base,
Right.
those middling concepts, somewhere more advanced than basic arithmetic, but less advanced than calculus. And because most people wait till college anyways to learn calculus. Oh.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you're on that, as long as you go get the micro bit from BBC, teach your kids, and we're gonna have jobs.
Oh man, that's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yes, I think so.
All right. Let's see here. Google, it's approximately their 200th Drive plugin. Happens to be for Microsoft Office, and this lets you use. So they made this plugin for Office, and the title is to let you use the apps you're already comfortable with. If I were to rewrite
bold statement,
I would create an alternate title, and it would say, Google admits that Microsoft Office is actually pretty good. is what I would say. I may not fully reserve that for Outlook, but for Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, pretty good. Pretty darn good.
Let's be real. There's only one that nobody can compete with, that nobody will touch, and nobody has ever come up with a product that isn't anything except in the basics. I mean, there are spreadsheet documents out there that excel at being comparable to Excel up to a point, and then it just breaks down. And our aunt, when she was working at Apple, they used the Apple suite, productivity suite, for everything except Excel, because seriously, you want us to do business work on numbers? Like, are you joking? And I'm sure Google is no different, where they sit there and they go, there's not, you want to do any real level of analytics and displaying of information, oh, you got to use, everybody still uses Excel.
Very true. Very true. And Google is coming around to that realization, which is probably good. Yeah, pretty funny. So they've got this new plugin essentially that you can edit all your documents and then just have them stored in Google Drive. And they made it crazy easy to it's Dropbox.
Right.
Essentially, you can store them in Drive and access them on your computer, and it's just as another option now. But again, it's more of Google. I don't want to say they're giving up on their docs and spreadsheets necessarily, because they probably genuinely believe that there is a use for them, but they're just going, yeah, we're Office works, and I would argue there was a time when I was like, man, I'm going to get nervous because Excel is not going to get any better. And Microsoft has really pulled that one around. So I'm impressed. And I think we can all confidently say, yep, they're going to be around for a while and it's getting better. And there's absolutely nobody who's going to come in and dethrone them in anywhere in the immediate future.
Yeah, it's crazy. It still just blows my mind that nobody even tried. I mean, well, no. See, that's the problem.
That's not true.
I say that nobody even tries, but it's just such a dominant player in the market that it feels like nobody tries, and yet I think people really try, like really hard. It's just Microsoft. I've been saying it for years. They've got an incredible engineering team together. And they really are an impressive team. It's just over the past couple of decades, they've made marketing decisions over engineering decisions, and it's ended in poor products. And I feel like Excel is one of those examples of where that rule didn't take place, and the engineers just kept cranking it out. And honestly, Word, except for the brief moments where it was a little bloated and slow, has always been really, really solid. And I just think it's easier to replicate. It's not as unless you're looking for that, bring in Excel tables into it and like really taking advantage of the whole suite. That's really where Word is second to none. But Excel's an interesting beast, and it's gonna keep them around if nothing else.
Yeah. I agree. Of course, their whole 360. So HP is totally adopting Microsoft 360 now, and
really
on it. So I'm getting to try it all out and learn how all those features work, which is cool.
Cool.
Yeah. It was kind of weird at one point in time. Actually, HP had started down the here's your company Google Drive, and had kind of been doing that, and clearly Microsoft went to bat and brought out their A game and won the contract back, because HP's going no, now we're Drive for Business and and big time. It's oh, there you go, way to go, Microsoft, you won HP over.
Honestly, my experience with their 360 stuff is it's good. They're one of the things that they've got going for them, and I say this as somebody who is I use Apple's iCloud Drive for everything. That's my go-to file sharing thing. I'm pretty hard for my own stuff. I use Apple iCloud services almost exclusively, because it integrates with everything on the front end really well, not because they're the best online company. In a lot of ways, they are hugely behind Google and Microsoft. Microsoft has got a gigantic server presence. I mean, they have a impressive infrastructure, and it's to the effect of when Apple servers can't handle something, when they need to do content distribution networks, when they need to offload, they use one or two two companies to do that, either Amazon Web Services or Microsoft's Azure. And it's a big that's quite the oh man, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh.
What?
What's the word when somebody like they do something that, oh man, it doesn't matter. Basically, it's Apple's in a position where it's endorsement. That's a big endorsement of your service, and I sit there and I go, that's what backs 360. It's good. It's on par with Google's web services. It's a good back end. They've got a good front end for their applications. With the Microsoft suite, it's not that shocking that 360 is pretty solid. It's just, at this point, it's a really crowded market. That's the biggest struggle. And if you were entirely a Microsoft, you had an Xbox One and Windows 10 and running on a Surface, and you were using your Windows phone and you had everything, I think it'd be, to me, I would say, yeah, use 360. No questions asked. Go for it. It's a great product. Oh,
okay.
It's just one of those. It's weird because I think at this point, especially for your like 360 and Dropbox and iCloud and those different services, to me the question becomes at this point is is there any way for any one of them to win other users? Is there a way for Apple to pull iCloud or pull Microsoft users to iCloud, or Microsoft to pull Google power users to that? At this point I don't think so. I think it's all ecosystem. What ecosystem are you most invested in? And then just stick with that. Oh. Oh.
Fair enough.
Do you have a washing machine going in the background?
No, it's something different.
It's something. Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's the way it is.
If you want to know the answer to that question, dear listeners, you're going to have to go back in time and just kind of fill in the lines. There's enough. You can figure it out if you've been paying attention.
Yeah. True that. What are we talking about next, man?
I don't know. Oh, yeah. There's a ton. It's late. So I want to hear about this. What do you think of the whole Ashley Madison hack? Has there been an update to that?
I don't know how much I care. Thankfully I didn't know what it was until the story came out. So what is it? Is that the cheating one? They've got
it's the cheating
4 or 5 different sites.
Their tagline is "Life is short, have an affair."
Yeah.
So I'll set up what actually happened. So okay. Ashley Madison got hacked. All of their user data got compromised, and the hackers have said, "Look, we are going to release all of the information for all the profiles. I mean, private messages, their profile of what they're into, names, everything. We're just going to put it all out on the internet, unless you shut down the website."
That'll work out for them.
What?
That should work out for them.
Exactly. Yeah. It's pretty funny. I don't know. It's been interesting watching the internet respond to this one, because there is definitely, where I think there was a lot more when Apple, the iCloud hacks happen, not where iCloud got hacked, but individual accounts got broken into, and all of the celebrities' nude photos got leaked. There was a lot of, hey, these were private photos being shared between consenting adults, and there's a huge invasion of privacy, and maybe it was unwise to put it on the cloud, which, by the way, it was. But these were clearly victims, and and we shouldn't be you shouldn't be blaming the girls for this happening. You got to really focus your hatred on the hackers. Where on this one, everybody's kind of like, dude, it's a website for cheating. Don't be on it. And it has been the more resounding response from the communities. And what I also think is really interesting is that one of their tricks is that it's free to sign up, but it costs $20 to delete your profile. Which is
really,
I know, yeah, right. That's, hey man, lie down with dogs, and
wow.
I know, and so I've seen quite a few articles where people have said, yes, so I signed up for this site purely to research for this job, and when I found out that it was $20, I didn't pay it, and that's the only reason why I have an account. Just for the record. Yeah, exactly. Which is legit. Like, I could see, and I wouldn't do that now that I have a girlfriend. I wouldn't sign up for it. But if I'm single and we're doing this show, I can totally see signing up for it just to see what's going on, you know, from a research perspective. And all of a sudden realize, well, it's going to cost, forget that, you know, whatever. And, but still, I mean, at least at that point, I wouldn't have filled out the profile. There wouldn't be anything embarrassing on it. But I will say this: this is not my greatest attribute. I recognize, but I really am hoping that they release the names. I'm gonna look for like anybody I know because I want the gossip, man. It just sounds fun. I'm looking forward to the actors. I'm looking forward to the politicians. I'm looking forward to it all. And just from a drama perspective, it sounds awesome. I'm just being real here, James. I'm being real. I'm not saying it's an admirable quality.
I was going to say, I guess I appreciate the honesty. I guess.
Man. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
And you and I, this clearly is a breaking of the policy of there's nothing private online. If you want it to be private, don't put it online. It's just something that I think everybody's going to have to learn, and as time goes on, that's how it is. And you know, a website like Ashley Madison is no exception to that, especially no exception to that rule. No.
Yeah. I wonder how the Reddit community feels about it.
Well, they were the ones that were like tearing. They were the ones that were going like, "Don't cheat, be better people."
Be better people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess it's one of those. If you're willing to play with fire, you got to be willing to get burned every once in a while, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I tend to come down on the side of, I think it's interesting. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the social stuff of it, but it's terrible because on one hand, it's nobody's business. It's like, it's really none of my business what people do in their relationships, and I don't want to care. I don't want to be all judgy. Obviously, I have this compulsion where I'm really curious and I get excited at the temptation, and that's what everybody's going to do because it's exciting, and I know it doesn't affect me in any way, so it's even more exciting, and because I'm not going to get burned by it, but at the same time, I think we all, I don't know.
Well, this kind of reminds me back with the black, blue, yellow, white dress thing.
Yeah.
That sucker went super viral, super fast, and they were saying one of the things that were nice about it was you could take a stance. It was very clear, like either it was one color, one set of colors, or another. And it's like the weather. Nobody really cares. It's a safe topic.
Right.
The problem with this one, it's not a safe topic.
Right. Yeah, there is inevitably going to be a if the names come out and all the user profile stuff is done, there are going to be political careers ended overnight.
Well, it's just honestly, no one's really going to want to talk about it because no one really wants to be that person.
Yeah.
Who's that interested? I mean, there'll be a few news sources that definitely cover it, and yeah, you'll hear the high profile ones, but that'll be about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think very many people are planning on doing what I'm doing, which is comparing my
Right.
Facebook profile to from my friend list. I wake up
Right.
tomorrow morning, I've got like 20 friends that aren't friends with me anymore. Dead giveaway. Just be cool. He won't find out.
Yeah. Hilarious. Super funny. So, what do you do if you're a hardware company and are dominating your market? What do you do?
I don't know.
You
Languish.
move into the content side of the world.
There we
At
go.
least that's what GoPro has decided to do.
It's not a bad
So
strategy.
they are, of course, as we talked about last week, dominating the point of view camera market, doing very well on that part. And they've got a ton of users who are creating a ton of video. And GoPro wants to take advantage of that. They want to help those content producers earn some cash. And they'll get a small cut along the way as well. And so they've got this new platform that they're doing. Now, just so you know, it is invite only. So you can't just go and upload your own stuff. And these videos are like, they're not cheap. Did you see like the starting price of like $1,000 for a video?
Yeah, it's crazy.
For a 6-month license, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, they really are looking at it as, they don't want to compete with YouTube. That's not their goal. Their goal is to be, and which is interesting, and because we talked about last week that's clearly what they want to do. That's what a lot of what the IPO was about, was helping them build the infrastructure to make this move. And so the big question has been, how do they attack it? How do you become a content network without becoming a television network or Netflix or YouTube? How do you do that? What do you try to do? And so it's a pretty smart first step. It's tepid, it's small, it's not a huge, leap forward, but it's definitely a movement in the direction that they want to go, which is to get good at that, deliver high quality content to people who are going to pay for it.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. They clearly are doing the marketing thing of like pick a niche, make it very specific for it, and then eventually they'll whatever that is, expand out as they feel comfortable.
Makes me
tick off your YouTube partner.
Yeah, exactly. Makes me want to make a commercial though. And have some cool GoPro footage, slow motion, and whatnot.
I like it.
It's cool. It's exciting to see. Obviously, I'm now super biased because I own GoPro stock. I own an GoPro stock. Big time investor.
You don't own 200 stocks of GoPro?
I do not. I own 1/200th of 200 stock shares.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So the largest company in the world this week had almost their 200th earning report.
Yeah?
It's like 150. It's not even close.
It is close enough.
I did the math just to check. Is it?
Yeah.
But almost. That's a qualitative term. We can go with it.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, when you go to, by the way, furlobros.com 200 won't work because it's already somehow set up to go straight to this podcast. So,
that's what I thought. You had said that.
I know. Well, I thought I could overwrite it. Turns out you can't. So
this is awesome.
we're going to go with furlobros.com/giveaway.
This is we came prepared.
Yeah.
We're doing this thing for 2 weeks, so just letting you know.
2 weeks.
Like, next week we're gonna get it right next week.
Yeah.
We'll edit it in post.
Yeah. So where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So anyways, so the answer to the question it's going to ask you, which is what company is the largest company in the world or something like that. The answer is Apple. Okay, of course.
Yeah, it's just make it easy.
It's not BlackBerry or Zynga, just so in case there was any confusion there. But anyways, they did their earnings report. So I can't remember. It seemed like it was horrible but good.
Yeah, so it was great. It was phenomenal. It was not their biggest quarter ever, but It was humongous. They've now broken the $200 billion um, uh, what's the word, cash stockpile, and that
Cash
isn't
hoard.
just and that isn't just us playing on the fact that this is their 200th episode. They literally, it's $202 billion, $202 billion just sitting in the bank, not doing nothing.
It's
That
a lot of money.
is nuts. Um, yeah, they're making pretty good change. But their stock plummeted. Not well, yeah, actually quite a bit. I mean, it wasn't like they lost all their value, but it took a big hit at
Yeah.
the when they announced it, and it's just one of those weird expectations games that's been playing, where they're beating their guidances, but Wall Street is setting these expectations that are even beyond that, and then they get 99.5% of what Wall Street expectations, and because they didn't just destroy Wall Street's inflated expectations, the stock plummets. And you're like, but they beat their guidances by a lot. Are we in crazyville here?
This is why we don't like the stock market, man.
I know. Well, and it's funny because I mean, when you understand the mechanisms, especially on a company like Apple, it's not that crazy. Like, well, it's not. It doesn't. It's not that it doesn't make any sense. There is a real there. Apple's the sort of company. Their stock is really ripe for day traders and investors and people like me buying a couple of shares on Robinhood, trying to make a little bit of quick cash. And what happens is there's you can manipulate the stock just with headlines. You can get it to go down, you can get it to go up. And most people would sit there and go, well, why wouldn't you want to just go up? Everybody makes more money when you go up, except for your short sellers. And they make money when the stock goes down. And so there's this impetus to try to drive the stock price down with bad headlines like the Apple Watch isn't selling. And the best part about something like that is that there's no way or Apple has already announced they're not going to counter that. So that's the only information in the vacuum. And that word gets around, and your friends and your coworkers start to say, oh, I heard the Apple Watch is terrible and nobody's buying it. You're like, it's not true, but that affects the stock price, and then your big-time traders, the guys that are selling shorts, they're the ones that are going to make a lot of money with bad news like this. And they are incentivized to overestimate in order to make a quick buck. And I don't know, you just shrug your shoulders, and it's like it drives me nuts because it's like you said, it just doesn't I don't know, there's no real value of the stock to the company, and it's just craziness that you can have a company that's doing as well as Apple is doing, and they just get beat up, and the word on the street is they're doing terrible. But so the numbers behind the numbers, their success happened in China, is really where it was driving the price, driving their success this last quarter. They sold a ton of iPhones over there, which is kind of what everybody expected. But most of their growth came from China. And in the most recent quarter, the third of 2015, revenue in China for Apple grew to $13.2 billion from $6.2 billion in 2014, which is enormous.
A lot.
Yeah. Revenue in China again surpasses that of Europe at 10.3. The Greater China region remains Apple's second largest market after the Americas, underscoring the critical importance of the area for Apple's future growth. And you're going to see that continue because there's 1.5 billion people there. It's a pretty cool market, and there's no reason to expect that the iPhone 6s won't do just as well there, and they're going to keep finding more and more growth there, and it's going to be a bigger deal as time goes on. But it's huge. That's where all their money is, and but there is a big question about the 6S, because especially, even though that this was like kind of their downturn year, Apple normally languishes during the S generation of their iPhones, because that's what's driving most of their profits.
Yeah.
And the S's are looked at as second-class citizens, and they're wondering, okay, are they going to sell as many iPhones of the 6S generation as opposed to the 6? Are we going to see this sort of growth, the pent-up growth that happened as a result of the 5S? And I think so. I know a lot of people that are waiting to upgrade to the 6S and are very excited about it. I think people aren't necessarily, they haven't wised up to the idea that it's just an exterior upgrade. Like, you get one or two big new features, you get a huge speed upgrade, you get better battery power management, so it's the same battery life. The only difference is each generation is just, you got to buy a new case as well. Like, that's
right.
the only difference. But
well, the screen was genuinely different this last time.
That's true. But I sit there and I go, I think, there's no reason to think that the 7 will be any different from a screen size perspective. They get pretty comfortable in their little ruts. And I guess, to me, it's like, it's just, I think consumers are kind of wising up to the fact that you're on one of two upgrade cycles, or at least Apple's whole strategy of, people only upgrade their phone every 2 years. We don't need them to upgrade every year. And we'll do an upgrade to sort of get that bump, but their entire user base is on one of two upgrade cycles. You're either on the 6 or the 6S. You're either on the Generation or the Generation S cycle. And I think you'll see them get beat up in Wall Street for not coming out with a 7. But I think you'll still see huge sales. And I do think there's a lot of pent-up demand for an upgraded system, especially because, like, my 5 is finally really starting to look long in the tooth, and from a software perspective, so I'm looking to upgrade finally. And
yeah, I fully agree with you, though. I'm pretty sure that the thunder will all be stolen by the new Apple TV.
Yeah,
that's my hope. That's my hope.
Mine too. I'm excited.
Investors will see that and be like, "Oh my gosh, they're taking over the living room."
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play video games on it, and I think we'll have a chance.
Not going to happen.
You don't think so? You don't think they'll allow third-party apps that allow you to play games?
No. I'm calling it.
Man. Okay. I'm saying yes. I'm saying yes. I'm
Really?
saying that the upgraded hardware, the whole intention of it is to bring third-party apps to it, to open up the SDK, and that will allow games. Is it going to be a high-powered gaming machine? Absolutely not.
No.
But casual gamers that have made up
through for your iPhone or iPad.
Yeah.
Or you're thinking native apps.
I'm thinking native apps. apps.
Nah, see, they just go AirPlay, dude. Done.
Well, why don't they do that with the watch then? They're putting native apps on the watch. I think there's advantages to having native apps, and they're tech dorks. They want the app. I guarantee you, the engineers are just chomping at the bit to unleash the power. Let us put a real processor in it. Let us build an SDK. We've already done most of the work. Just let us sell it because it's ready.
No, focus. You can do
Well,
great things by saying no to other good things.
That's true. I agree, but I don't think the engineers think that way, which is, yeah. And sometimes they win the argument.
Sometimes. Nah, not gonna happen.
Yeah. And then the last interesting thing that's kind of come out of this is that Apple's making a ton of money off of music, tons and tons of money, and not just iTunes and Apple Music, but also Spotify and Pandora, because every time you sign up for Spotify Music,
yes,
through the Spotify app, Apple takes 30% cut on that every month.
As they should.
Right. Cool. That's their whole argument. And there's doesn't seem to be, they're not doing anything illegal, as it were, so far in this what they're doing, but they charge every time in-app purchases and what's it called? And just buying the app, they take a 30%
subscription.
cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the reason why you can't buy anything through the Amazon store. You can only No, no.
Oh,
That's
you
why
can't.
you can't buy digital media, but you can buy real stuff.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, like you can't buy a Kindle book. You can only add it to your wish list, then you have to go to Amazon.com and then hit it. It's yours,
Yeah,
right?
no,
And
it's
that's
lame.
one extra step. Come on. But that's because of Apple's terms of service. Well, the FTC is officially investigating Apple for what seems like the 200th time over this sort of
Love it.
over anti-competitive practices and monopolistic abuses.
Yeah,
And
but they're doing it to everybody, so I don't foresee a problem. You know,
yeah, that's
calling out the music folks
yeah,
specifically. And they get
yeah,
Apple's like, just don't make it available to buy. Do you like
yeah,
Amazon?
yeah, exactly. There's a solution. Yeah, I guess Spotify. I don't remember if we talked about this, but Spotify actually sent out emails telling people
Yep.
to cancel their iPhone subscription and sign up online for a $3 a month service. You know, or as far as Spotify is concerned, they make $9.99 no matter what. It's just do you give that extra $3 to Apple or not?
Yep.
Um,
They're
uh,
just trying to stick it to the man.
eh. Well, the problem is that if you only ever use an iPhone and you signed up for Spotify, you'll see Apple Music $9.99. That's even cheaper. I'm signing up for that, no question. They were just trying to get the message out there. No, don't. You can get it for that cheap for us too. We're
Mm.
price
Okay, all
competitive.
right. That's fair. That's fair.
You know. Good luck, Spotify.
Yeah.
So this is awesome. You know how your battery life dies all the time and it's like super annoying.
No, because
Um,
I have an iPhone 6 Plus,
mm.
but I've heard of that issue with lesser phones.
Yeah, so NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, they invented a really cool idea, new device that is a reflector kind of absorber of Wi-Fi signals. So basically how the
Okay.
internet or how wireless communication works is it works on a series of ons and offs. And actually with wireless communication it's a little more complicated because you want what they call a clock, basically a synchronizing thing of each is working on the same clock, and so what you actually do is you have waves that are turning on and off throughout the course of the wave. And what that allows you to do is to say, yes, it's on, you know, it allows you to have a consistent synchronized clock, but whether the top half of the wave is showing up or not, if it's showing up, it's a 1. If it's not showing up, it's a 0. And so you can send all that information to a device, and then to communicate back, your Wi-Fi device has to send that information back. And what that requires is both sides to have the ability to powerfully transmit signals and read it. Reading is very low power. Sending is very high power, and that's where you really lose a lot of uh, energy or efficiency through communication. Well, the JPL came up with this really clever antenna that basically just you could make it absorb or not absorb the signal programmatically. So you can actually, and basically what it does is you would have a transmitter and it would send a really powerful signal with the full wave, and when it hits your Wi-Fi on you, the Wi-Fi antenna on your device, then your device would absorb all of the zeros and would not absorb all the ones, and the reflected signal back, the transmitter could then read the reflected signal and know what you were communicating. And that's really low power consumption on the device. It's like double the power consumption on on the transmitter. But generally speaking, transmitters are plugged into the wall, and you don't really care because you sit there and go, well, it's, you know, from the amount of joules of electricity that are required is the same effectively, but it's where is it coming from? Is it coming from your battery or is it coming from a wall? So this could be pretty huge, and they're right now they're working on Wi-Fi, and they're having to do all sorts of there are reflection issues where there are materials in your house that absorb Wi-Fi signals and stuff like that. So you have to figure out how to You actually have to like scan the entire room, and there's some concerns, but at this point they're saying there's no reason to think that it wouldn't work and that it won't be something that we can integrate in all of our devices sometime in the future.
Cool.
Which is really cool. I know, it's awesome. I love stuff like that.
JPL guys are pretty smart.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to work for JPL? I mean, you got an opportunity. Somebody came to you and said, "Hey, we're really desperate for you to work at JPL." Wouldn't you go for that? Wouldn't you go for that?
Would I have to move?
Or would you keep making your TV
Would I have to go in the
shows?
office every day?
No, you wouldn't. You'd live in the same area. You'd get paid. I don't know. I think the pay was more, but not significantly more. But no, keep making TV shows with a dying company. What a terrible decision.
What?
I have a friend who.
I was like, clearly not talking about me.
Yeah, I know. He didn't go work for JPL. I actually think it was probably a good decision for him, just his interest in stuff. But just like, come on, JPL wants you. And yeah.
Sometimes you got to follow your dream.
Yeah.
I was reading a blog. It was today, Seth Godin, which I was catching up from, so who knows when it was coming from. But he was like, he's like, I don't believe that we have a calling in life. It's like we have a caring in life.
Whoa.
We care about. And so go do that.
Go do your carrying.
Go work on something you care about, not what you feel called to. It's just, he's good at those like slight tweaks in logic. You're like, what are you doing? Stop pushing me in this direction. Stop it.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah, he's a clever dude. So what are we talking about next?
Are you? I would say, is it all me? It is all me still.
I think so. So Earth's closest cousin, is that the next one?
Yeah. It's over 200 light years away, about 114 to be specific. It's
1,000,
which is a long. What?
How far away is it?
Is it 1,400 light years? Is that what it was? What's that?
That sounds right.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. You're right. You said it correctly.
What is it? What did I say? I think I said two different numbers.
It's 1,400.
1,400 light years. That's a long distance, man.
Yeah, it is. It's more than 200.
It is more than 200. Did I say it was less than 200?
It's like 7 times 200.
Yeah, that's approximately.
Just quick.
My math is correct. Yeah, so we found another Earth-like planet. And how do you define an Earth-like planet? There's three characteristics that we'd like to define Earth as. One is its size, 2 is the size of its sun, and 3 is its distance from the sun. And the reasons why those numbers are important is because your size determines what sort of geology are you going to have. Gas giants are composed they don't really have a solid surface that you could stand on. They've got really weird. They don't necessarily have geology. They've got weirdness going on that you couldn't really build anything on. And if it's too small, the gravity is really weak, and then you have the inability to hold an atmosphere. Earth is like the perfect size within a range of what's determined to be the perfect size. And where it's hard enough to actually have a solid foundation, it's big enough to be able to hold a decent-sized atmosphere, which is really nice if you like to breathe. The sun size is important because it tells you what sort of light it's giving, how bright it is, how hot it is, what sort of a temperature spectrum are you talking about. And then the distance from the sun is radiation decreases logarithmically over distance, and so you get a lot less heat energy the further you get from the sun, which is why we don't use solar cells when we're going to Pluto, because it doesn't work. You don't get enough energy. But there is this band that they call the habitable zone, that if you are within that band, that distance from an Earth-sized sun, you're going to get certain temperatures on the surface. And if you have an atmosphere that can kind of regulate and balance the temperature around the surface of the planet, you can sustain liquid water, which is really exciting if you're trying to, once again, live on the planet. And this is the first one of those that we found that we've actually identified. It's in our galaxy. Obviously, take a bit of a trip to get there and back, but it's there. And we're gonna send better and better satellites up into space to take closer and closer looks at it, try to figure out what the deal is, see if we can't see an atmosphere and stuff like that. But the significance of all of this is, when you're looking for alien life, sometimes people will ask the question of why do we keep looking for Earth-like planets? Isn't it possible for there to be other forms of life, like silicon-based life or energy-based life or whatever? Like, why do we define life so narrowly? And the obvious answer is, well, we've only ever seen one type of life, and that's ours. So we're going to start there. If we stumble across, yeah, exactly. If we stumble across something else, we're not going to say, well, that doesn't count. But we're not going to start looking for the crazy imaginable when we know that carbon-based life on an Earth-sized planet, approximately Earth's distance from the sun around an Earth-sized star, if we can define those characteristics, we're going to go for that first. And that's what we found. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, the universe is pretty big. You kind of narrow it down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gigantic, and that does two things. Number one, it means that it'd be impossible to look at everything in a reasonable time frame. But number two, it also means that there's almost certainly, just given the random variation of chance, a lot of Earth-sized planets around sun-sized stars, approximately the distance from the Earth to the Sun. Like they are out there, and there are probably tons of them in other galaxies, and there are probably tons of them in our galaxies, which is exciting when you're looking for this stuff. So I don't know. I don't think we'll ever. I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever find out anything more than that. It's kind of a bummer, but yeah, this is as good as it gets.
In the meantime, XKD helped us out this week to celebrate it. He came up with a bunch of names. He has a star tracker, I guess, for planets that they haven't got around to naming yet, and so he provides suggestions for them, which is pretty funny. So like this one, like an older one, it's the Gliese 667c. It's found a bunch of planets, and so he's got some names for them, like Space Planet, or a star, Blogosphere, Blogodome, Earth. He's got some other one, Sid Meier's Towel Seti B, Giant Dog Planet, Tiny Dog Planet, Phil Planet, Unicode Snowman, just kind of super. He's got some weird ones too, like Waist Deep Cats. What? I don't even know what that means. Skydot, I thought that one was good. Jelly-filled Planet, Hot Mess, Seas of Toothpaste.
Seas of Toothpaste.
This one weird planet, or Huge Soccer Ball, or Geodude.
Well, I feel like Jurassic World. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I feel like you missed the best part of the joke, though. NASA's announced the discovery of a super Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone of a sun-like star. I suggest we name the planet Pluto, both to celebrate the great work by the New Horizon team and to make the stupid "is Pluto a planet" debate a little more confusing.
Yes. There you go. Yeah, super funny.
Planet.xxx.
He's super creative, so he has fun with it.
That's true. Kepler 438, which is the planet that we found. The other name that he has suggested for it is Emergency Backup Earth.
Yes. Which would take a long time to get to.
Hey, man. It's worth it, though. You go the speed of light, you won't even notice.
Dude, is Vizio filing for an IPO?
Vizio is filing for an IPO. It's worth more than $200.
Since I'm going to buy one of their televisions and sound speakers.
Yeah, I got to buy that stuff. I was looking for their IPO price. Didn't say. But regulators filed a prospectus Friday with U.S. regulators to raise up to $172.5 million. That's almost $200 million in an initial public offering of Class A common stock. B of A, Merrill Lynch, DeShoop Bank, Securities, Citigroup. They're all underwriters. Blah 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 blah. Nobody cares.
Their soundbars are amazing, from what I understand.
Oh, TVs are cool. I saw one of their 4K. I went into the Target and I was looking at one of their 55-inch. Is that the one you're going for? The 4K 55-inch?
I think I'm gonna go 50. 55 was a little big for my living room, though. I'm starting to tell everybody we're looking to move, so so our next living room may be bigger. But I was also telling Jesse, I was like, if we get the 50, that gives us the opportunity to upgrade later, and actually just like you could increase in size and feel good about it. So we're going with 50. What are you shaking your head for?
I just go big or go home. What is it?
It's an extra like $250.
Yeah, for an extra 5 inches. That's awesome. That's when you look at it from that perspective, James. That's a pretty good deal. That's like only $50 an inch. Like think about that. Let's think about that.
I'll think about it.
It's on the diagonal too. That's just...
I know. I'm still having trouble getting someone to totally like 100% be in. I guarantee you though, we will watch that first movie and she'll be like, "Good move."
Yeah. Why didn't we do this before?
Yeah. I'm like, I know. I was waiting for Apple. Yeah.
Stupid Apple.
Cool, dude.
On, make your video game system.
Well, when are they filing? Does that say it yet, or is it just whenever it happens?
2002. No, that's...
They were founded in 2002?
No, it's crazy.
Wow. Man, there are just some companies that just take off like rockets.
Yeah. I don't see here when it's supposed to...
Okay. Maybe it doesn't actually get set until like... Usually it's like, we think it's going to happen in a few months or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, don't worry. We'll keep you all in the loop. So I got two more stories. I got a couple more stories.
All right, make it happen.
So Apple hired an auto industry veteran.
Yeah.
Dude. Everybody's cars. Like, they're going to make a car. And I come back to, of course, they're building a car. I still don't think that means they're ever going to sell cars. But, I mean, they're exploring it, and if for no other reason than so that they can better attack the market in the near future. And it's a great move. They're supposed to do that. They do that with all sorts of product lines. Car is kind of a big deal. It'd be a huge turn.
What did this guy do? Okay, auto industry vet, great. Or they're hiring multiple of them.
Doug Betts, who led global quality at Fiat Chrysler Automobile NV unit last year, is now working for the Cupertino, California-based electronic giant, but declined to comment on the position when reached Monday. Mr. Betts' LinkedIn profile says he joined Apple in July and describes his title as Operations Apple Inc., with a location in SF Bay area, but no further specs.
All right, so he's a quality guy.
Yeah. Which I sit there and I go, that totally. Once again,
that may have nothing to do with cars.
That may have nothing to do with cars. Yeah, absolutely. Or he's helping them build a car, and they're going to be building stereos for cars, or heads-up units for cars, or whatever for cars. Like, cars are a huge market. There's a really good reason for an electronics company to get involved in the manufacturing of cars, and especially if you want to be working directly with Ford or directly with Tesla or whoever, being able to be a source for that'd be gigantic for them. Those sorts of partnerships would be great, but you really need to know the inside outs of cars. And I sit there and I go, this is the sort of project that can bear many, many fruits over a long period of time and never result in an actual car. Does that mean that they don't want to build a car? It's probably just like guys who want to build a video game system because they think they can beat Sony and Microsoft at Apple. I'm sure there's guys that want to build cars too. But, you know, like you said, that's not the higher ups. That's not what they're there to do. They're there to say no. And so they're building a car. Are they going to sell cars? No, I don't think so.
Well, we could definitely agree on that last point.
What? That they're building a car, or that they're never going to sell a car?
No, that they're never going to sell one.
You don't think they're building cars?
No, I don't.
Really? You don't even think they're building one? Just like prototype stuff?
Yeah.
Just for research purposes?
Maybe for research purposes.
That's different.
That's fundamentally different than prototyping.
Fair enough. Fair enough, but that's what I mean. I think it's a pipe dream that it's a potential road.
No, see, I'm going to say they're explicitly not building them for the purpose of selling a car one day. It's for related research to something else.
Yeah. I guess I would say my guess
Which again is like, why would you ever buy a car then? You may are modifying existing cars.
Because you can. You're Apple. You have so much money, you don't know what to do with it.
That's not true. They know exactly what to do with it. They're just keeping it in a bank account, safe and secure.
Okay. I think that they've got enough. I get a feeling that my feeling on the whole car thing is that Johnny Ives likes cars. He's said it before. He'll say it again. And I think that there is a place for them. I think they get all these little science projects that are more or less going on sort of in the background that you never hear about. And that are just sort of little explorations. And if they discover anything really cool, like the ability to use a touchscreen, and when you flick, there's this momentum behind it. And if you ever get something like that, and you show it to a higher up, it might become an entire product. And that that story of how the whole process of Jobs wanted a tablet. He envisioned this piece of glass that you could hold in your hand and operate on, but what that looked like he didn't really know until he saw the momentum scroll with the flick on a touchscreen. That was the original iPad, and then he said, this needs to be a phone. Like, it focused into a product at that point. And I sit there and I go, I think that's what this is, where it's like, it's just an experiment. They're just building something, seeing what they can do. And if everybody comes together and says, okay, this is truly different, we can capitalize on this, we can differentiate ourselves, then we'll build a car. But they're sitting there going, worst case scenario is we know how to integrate into cars, and that is worth a lot of money, and they want that. That's what I think they're doing. And I think a car is a completely different beast than a touchscreen, so it requires an entire team.
We will agree to disagree on this.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I just don't.
Fair enough. You don't buy it.
I just don't buy it. Maybe they're better run than other companies I have experience with. Which evidence would say they are, clearly. If we just go off a market cap. They're known for their focus, and like that just screams of not focus at all. That's more of a Google thing to do, not an Apple thing. I totally get CarPlay, totally get that. That makes 100% sense. It's a clear tie to their ecosystem. Making the entire thing, that's hard to say. I mean, it's not even, were they gonna have a car kit, something like that? I mean, I don't know. They're not building homes. Why not?
Yeah.
Maybe they are, and we're missing that one. They clearly have a say in architecture and how they think things like that should look, and the technology around it.
Oh man, I got to talk to you about that after the show.
Okay.
I'm definitely not allowed to talk about it on the air.
Okay.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. What an unfair tease.
Well,
if you want to know, DM him on Twitter. Maybe he'll give you something like that. There you go. Committed you to something there.
I was going to say, Prove to me that I can trust you. Give me your
DM him, telling
yeah.
him you can trust me.
No. DM me your Ashley Madison account credentials, and then we'll talk. um, yeah, no, yeah, I don't know. What was I gonna say?
I don't know.
I sometimes wonder if they envision themselves like one of the Korean or Japanese giant conglomerates that has their hand in everything. You know, if they could generalize what it means to be focused and be Apple, but yet be a massive conglomerate, which who knows? That might be, Jobs never would have, but that doesn't mean that that's not what the company would do. And
that's fair.
But so firefighters are allowed to shoot drones out of the sky now, which is really exciting. There was a big old fire in California, and they were trying to pour fire retardant onto. It was on a freeway, like people's lives were being threatened. It was crazy, and they were trying to pour fire retardant onto the fire, but there were drones in the air, and when you're flying a helicopter, drones are scary because those can kill people. And it was just people,
individual people curious.
Yeah, well, they weren't. Yeah, they were just trying to get good footage because you can sell that stuff to news networks. They'll pay good money for it, or put it on YouTube. Like and it was just like, and they were like, "What are we supposed to do? Like, we can't get up in the we can't fly, we can't pour." So, California government basically said, "Yeah, you're allowed to deal with the drones." They didn't explicitly say what. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping for firefighters on helicopters with shotguns. That's my dream. I think that would be great.
That seems like the safest route.
Yeah. It's an emergency, James. Okay, we can make exceptions for safety. It will be interesting to see what that looks like from how do you take care of that? Do you do like nets maybe? I guess you could get like a chain net, like try to capture them, because the biggest problem is some of these things are big. They're like multiple pounds with really fast spinning blades of death. Like, if you knock them out of the sky, they're going to fall somewhere with a tremendous amount of momentum. So it's not like you can just, how do you deal with drones? It's an interesting question. But firefighters are now allowed to legally grapple with that question, which, by the way,
they just gotta like get a really big helium balloon and just tie it to it and then just let go, like a sucker.
Just not even destroy. Just bye now.
Watch it go up.
What I think somebody should do is try to get a license or a permit with the the FCC, or not the FCC, the guys who do FAA, to like arm drones for research purposes, to send them up into the air, and try to further
down out of the air.
Exactly.
I got you.
I'm not done with this idea, man. Drone wars. I want it to happen. I'm excited about it, and I've talked to my legal counsel, and it is believed that there is a path forward.
That's good.
Exactly what that looks like I'm not sure of, but the biggest problem that I'm having is that it just does seem like to get to the point where I won't go to federal prison for it. I'm probably going to need to like hire lawyers and have real money involved, which means getting VCs and committing to it. You can't just mess around with the idea and see how it works. Like, you got to commit. Which isn't a bad
can't put a video on YouTube and just hope it goes viral with advertising.
No, you can do that, but you will go to federal prison for that.
Gotcha.
It's quite illegal. Don't do that, kids.
Gonna work on the definition of drone or something. Interesting.
Yeah, see, that was kind of my thing, right? Like, find a loophole, but they're pretty pretty tight on those, man. There are not many loopholes available.
It's funny. Like, I guarantee you, like 50 years from now, we're going to look at this whole drone things the way that software companies look at patents. We're just going to go, it doesn't quite fit the rules and regulations that we put in place for them anymore. It's antiquated, and it really needs an entire overhaul. I'm not saying it's related to the patent piece. I'm just saying the way that we're treating it is definitely old world style of rule.
Well, and
a new world, and we generally don't know what to do with them. So the answer is just no.
Right.
And that's what's happening here.
It's a weird transitional period because for a really long time, I mean, remote control planes that can do tremendous damage have been around for a long time. So the question everybody keeps asking is what changed? And the answer is, well, it used to be that to learn to fly a remote control plane required a lot of time, patience, and understanding. It required you to really learn and value the machine you were flying. And so the number of people that were willing to just do something stupid was very small because the commitment was huge. Whereas now the commitment is it's like $200 and things fly themselves. It's crazy what the bar to entry is so low now. Whereas to be an RC hobbyist required hundreds of hours of putting the planes together. And then, and could cost thousands of dollars. It was an incredibly intensive hobby, and just everything that was involved in the process. And so there were very few radicals, whereas now you can be a complete moron and do something really stupid really fast, with no respect for what you're doing and no consideration for it. Like, for example, you might take a drone, strap a camera to it, fly it over a fire while firefighters are trying to fight the fire. I think what happens is that we're in this transitionary period, and we do have to get to the point of, there's two types of drones. There's the type of drones that are allowed to do whatever, but the pilots are regulated. And then there's the type of drones that are highly regulated, but anybody can pilot them. And you'll do that with software on the regulation side for the drones. They don't go above a certain height. They don't go above a certain speed. They have GPS, so they don't go in a certain area. And then you'll have the drones that are just, they fly, you can do whatever you want with them, but you have to have a license to be able to fly it. And if you want to be able to fly, you want to be able to pick up packages and travel them, across the city, you'll have to have a business license. It's just going to be, the FAA is going to explode in regulations for drones and how they deal with that. And I don't know, I think we'll find a path forward on drones, but in the meantime, we'll have shotgun-armed firefighters in the sky, which will be really exciting. But yeah, so I got one last story, just as sort of a follow-up to last week, because I threw it in right at the end, so I'll throw it in right at the end again. So it's official, eSports athletes will have to be drug tested from here on out because of the whole doping scandal, which I come back to. It's entertainment. They're adults. Let them do whatever drugs a doctor will tell them. I don't care. But they're trying to take themselves seriously, and serious sports, seriously do drug testing. They don't seriously do drug testing. That's the worst part about all this, is that it's all about, you set up the thinnest veil of drug testing you can do to allow these athletes to, compete at levels that are inhuman, and because they're on these drug-filled benders. It's really exciting. It makes great football, baseball, everything. I mean, we love this stuff. So why wouldn't we let the esports guys do it too, in the exact same way? Gambling in Casablanca. But I wish they just let pro athletes do steroids.
I guess that's so more than 200 athletes will have to look out now.
Exactly. It's a lot of them.
Yeah, I bet. Wow. Crazy week, dude.
I know. Happy 200th episode.
We made it. It's pretty sweet. Pretty cool. And hey, everybody else, you made it too. which is good. Yeah, thank you everyone for just listening. And this is, in case you missed it, episode 200. Please participate in our giveaway. We're here celebrating, so we're giving away a couple $100. So you have an opportunity to win $100 gift card. So all you got to do is go to furlobros.com/giveaway. And it'll take you right to the page where you answer real easy questions, such as who's the biggest company in the world? Hint, answers Apple. And then you just give us your email address. That way we know who you are. And don't worry, I'm not going to sell it or spam or do anything like that. We just need to know who the winner is. And then you'll have an opportunity to share it with your friends. And if you do, for everyone who signs up, you get 3 additional entries. Pretty cool. So yeah, and we've got a ton of awesome companies that we're be giving away for your favorite tech companies like Amazon and Apple and Google and Microsoft and Best Buy and Regal Cinemas and AMC theaters, because we love
we want you guys to be on the inside track with these movies.
Yes, so if you had $100 gift
give away everything,
you could go watch them all with us.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to wait till we spoil it. Yes. The next day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so everybody, just seriously, we generally do appreciate it, and totally thank you. All right, so don't forget, you can also just check out the show notes at furlobros.com/200. That will take you right there. It'll also be on the front page. Yeah, so I am James Furlo. My 200th pixelated brother. Does that sound about right?
It's perfect.
Is Matthew Furlo. So we will talk next time.